The sky above Tokyo turned white before it turned black. Admiral James Chen watched from the International Space Station as the first beam of energy cut through Earth's atmosphere like a sword through silk. The weapon touched the city for exactly 3 seconds. When the light faded, Tokyo was gone. Where 15 million people had lived and worked and loved, there was now only a crater of molten glass that glowed red in the darkness. Chen's fingers gripped the edge of the observation window, so hard his knuckles turned white. He had been drinking coffee when the sensors started screaming. He had been checking routine supply manifests. Now he watched his world die. "Sir, we're getting reports from Sao Paulo," Lieutenant Maria Santos said behind him. Her voice shook. "Same weapon signature. The city is..." "It's gone, sir." Chen turned to look at her. Santos was 26 years old. She had joined the space program to study stars, to push humanity toward a better future among the cosmos. Now tears ran down her face as she watched those same stars betray them. "Mumbai just went dark," another voice called from the communication station. "We've lost all contact." The alien ships hung above Earth like dark gods. There were 12 of them, each one larger than any structure humanity had ever built. Their hulls were black and smooth without visible weapons or engines. They simply existed in space, impossibly still, impossibly massive, and from their surfaces, light reached down to touch Earth's cities and burn them away. Chen had been a fighter pilot before he became an astronaut. He had flown combat missions over Syria when he was young and stupid, and thought he understood war. He had seen buildings collapse and people run through streets filled with smoke. But this was different. This was not war. This was extermination. "Get me a line to Houston," Chen said. His voice sounded calm. He was proud of that. His world was ending, but his voice stayed calm. "And get me lines to Moscow, Beijing, Brussels. Anyone who's still answering." "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Santos said. "It's coming from the alien ships. All frequencies. Every language. Put it on," Chen ordered. The voice that filled the station was not a voice. It was something that pretended to be a voice. Something that had learned to make sounds like words but had never understood what words meant. It spoke in flat, emotionless tones that somehow reached into Chen's chest and squeezed his heart like a fist. "Humans of Earth, you are conquered. Your weapons are primitive. Your defenses are meaningless. We are the Krell. We have claimed 10,000 worlds. Yours is simply the newest. You will surrender all governmental authority within 12 hours or we will burn every city on your planet. There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. Choose surrender or choose extinction." The transmission ended. Chen stared at the observation window where Earth turned slowly below them. From space, the planet looked peaceful. You couldn't see the craters. You couldn't see the fires spreading from the destroyed cities. You could only see blue oceans and white clouds and the green-brown patches of continents that had belonged to humanity for 100,000 years. "Sir, what do we do?" Santos asked. Chen looked at the young lieutenant. She wanted orders. She wanted him to be the admiral who knew what to do, who had a plan, who could save them. But Chen was just a man who had watched 3 cities die in the time it took to finish a cup of coffee. "We fight," Chen said, because what else could he say? "Get me every military frequency, every station, every ship, every soldier who can still hold a weapon." The next 6 hours were chaos. Chen coordinated with what remained of Earth's military command. The United States launched everything they had. Russia emptied its silos. China sent wave after wave of missiles screaming toward the alien ships. Fighter jets from every nation on Earth rose into the sky in formation. Their pilots knowing they were flying toward death but flying anyway, because humans had never been good at surrender. The weapons exploded against the Krell shields like raindrops against a windshield. The missiles, the jets, the last desperate satellite weapons humanity had placed in orbit during the brief age when they thought they might fight each other among the stars. All of it was useless. The Krell ships didn't even bother to return fire. They just hung there, waiting, their shields absorbing everything humanity could throw at them. When the 12 hours ended, the Krell burned London. Then they burned New York, then Paris, then Moscow, then Beijing. They burned the centers of human power and human culture and human history. They burned the cities where humans had built their tallest towers and written their greatest symphonies and painted their most beautiful pictures. They burned the world. Chen stopped counting after 15 cities. He just watched. The station's crew gathered around him in the observation module, silent, witnesses to the end of everything they had known. Earth's night side lit up with fires that could be seen from space. The day side showed clouds of ash rising into the atmosphere, spreading, beginning to wrap the planet in gray. "Sir, we're receiving a ground transmission," Santos said. It's encrypted with old military codes. Pre-space age. Someone doesn't want the Krell to hear." "Put it through," Chen said. Static filled the speakers for a moment. Then a woman's voice cut through, clear and strong despite the interference. "This is Dr. Sarah Okonkwo broadcasting from Site 7. If anyone can hear this, if anyone is still alive up there, listen carefully. We survived. The lab survived. We're 3 miles underground and we have the sample." Chen leaned forward. "What sample?" "Identify yourself properly, Doctor." "The sample from the Krell scout ship that crashed in the Amazon last month," Okonkwo said. "The one everyone said was a weather balloon. The one the media forgot about. We have pieces of it. We have their technology. And sir, with all respect, we have a chance. Hope was a dangerous thing. Chen had learned that as a fighter pilot. Hope made you stupid. Hope made you take risks you couldn't afford. Hope got you killed." But as he looked at Earth burning below him, Chen realized that hope was also the only thing he had left. "How many people do you have?" Chen asked. 73 scientists, Okonkwo said, plus 200 military personnel who made it to the site before the attacks. "We have power for 6 months. We have the fastest computers on Earth. And we have pieces of a ship that crossed the stars. They made one mistake, Admiral. They left us alive. The Krell just destroyed every major city on the planet," Chen said. "They have 12 ships that our weapons can't touch. How is staying alive anything but delaying the inevitable?" "Because we're human, sir," Okonkwo said. Chen could hear the smile in her voice. It was the kind of smile that scared him. The kind of smile worn by people who had nothing left to lose and everything to prove. "We're the species that looked at every predator on Earth and decided we should be at the top. We're the species that split the atom and walked on the moon and built machines that think. We don't go extinct easily. We adapt, we learn. We survive. And then we bite back." Chen looked around at his crew. They were listening now, their faces showing the first traces of something that wasn't despair. Santos had straightened her shoulders. The communications officer had stopped crying. The pilot was nodding slowly. "What do you need, Doctor?" Chen asked. "Time, sir. And every intact piece of Krell technology you can send our way. Every sensor reading. Every scan, everything. We're going to take apart their shields. We're going to understand their weapons. And we're going to show these aliens that burning our cities was the worst mistake they've ever made." "They've destroyed our civilization," Chen said. "No, sir," Okonkwo replied. "They've made us angry. There's a difference." The transmission ended. Chen stood in the observation module and looked at Earth. The fires were spreading. The ash clouds were growing. Half the planet's major cities were gone. Billions of people were dead or dying. The Krell had taken humanity's mighty civilization and reduced it to rubble in less than a day. But Okonkwo was right. The Krell had made a mistake. They had shown humanity the future they wanted, a future where humans bowed and scraped and accepted their place as conquered primitives, a future where Earth was just another world in the Krell's collection of dead civilizations. Chen had watched Tokyo burn. He had watched his wife's hometown of Mumbai disappear in a flash of light. His daughter had been visiting New York on a college trip. His parents had retired to a small house outside Paris. They were all gone now. Everything he had loved, everything he had protected, everything he had fought for during his long career, gone. The Krell wanted surrender. They wanted humanity to accept defeat, to bow down, to admit that the universe belonged to whoever had the biggest guns and the strongest shields. But they didn't understand humans. They didn't understand the species that had crawled out of caves and conquered a planet, despite having no claws, no fangs, no armor, no venom, just stubborn, stupid, relentless determination to survive. "Santos," Chen said, "get me a secure line to every bunker, every submarine, every hidden military base on the planet. If they're alive and they can hear us, I want them to know we're not surrendering." "Sir?" Santos looked confused. "What should I tell them?" Chen smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a man who had lost everything and found something terrible in the emptiness. Something hungry. Something that wanted revenge. "Tell them we're going to school," Chen said. "The Krell are going to teach us everything they know about warfare among the stars. And when we've learned everything we need to know, we're going to show them what humans do to teachers who hurt their students." The message went out. Across Earth, in bunkers and bases and hidden caves, humans heard it. The survivors, the soldiers, the scientists, the civilians who had lost everything. They heard Admiral Chen's words and they understood. The Krell had burned their cities. They had killed their families. They had tried to break the human spirit. Instead, they had given humanity a purpose. In the ruins of what had been Tokyo, a group of survivors pulled themselves from the rubble. Their skin was burned. Their eyes were full of ash, but they were alive. And they were angry. In the Amazon, Dr. Okonkwo looked at the pieces of alien metal spread across her laboratory tables. The Krell thought their technology was beyond human understanding. They were about to learn otherwise. In orbit, Admiral Chen watched Earth turn below him. The planet was wounded. Its cities were burning. Its people were suffering. But it was not dead, not yet. Not ever, if he had anything to say about it. The Krell had fired the first shot. They had shown humanity what kind of universe existed beyond their small blue world. A universe of empires and conquest, of advanced weapons and casual genocide. A universe where the strong took what they wanted and the weak died screaming. But the Krell had forgotten something important. Something that every predator on Earth had learned the hard way over millions of years of evolution. Humanity wasn't the strongest species. They weren't the fastest or the toughest or the most heavily armed. But humanity was the species that never ever stopped coming. The species that turned every defeat into a lesson and every lesson into a weapon. The Krell had burned Earth's cities. They thought the war was over. They thought humanity would surrender or die. They didn't understand that for humans the war had just begun. And this time, humanity had nothing left to lose and an entire universe to teach about the price of making humans angry. The first shot had been theirs. But the last shot? That would be fired by human hands. And when it came, the Krell would learn what it meant to wake a sleeping giant. 3 months had passed since the burning. The Krell now occupied Earth like a boot pressed against humanity's throat. Their soldiers patrolled the ruins of cities. Their ships hung in orbit like dark stars, and their governors issued commands that humans were expected to follow without question. The aliens had divided Earth into administrative zones. They had begun cataloging resources. They had started the process of turning humanity's homeworld into just another conquered territory in their vast empire. But in the darkness beneath the surface, something was growing. Something the Krell had not expected. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo had not slept properly in 72 days. Her eyes were red from staring at computer screens. Her hands shook from too much coffee and not enough food, but she was smiling as she looked at the holographic display floating above her workstation. "It's beautiful," she whispered. The image showed a Krell energy weapon, broken down into its component parts, each piece labeled and analyzed. Her team had spent 3 months taking apart the salvaged technology from the crashed scout ship. 3 months of sleepless nights and failed experiments and moments of pure frustration when nothing made sense. But now finally they understood. Dr. Okonkwo called Marcus Webb, her lead engineer. He was a tall man from Australia who had been working on experimental aircraft before the invasion. Now he worked on understanding machines that traveled between stars. "You need to see this." Sarah walked over to his station. Marcus had spread out pieces of what looked like flexible metal across his table. It was part of the Krell armor they had recovered from a dead soldier. The Krell had made the mistake of sending ground troops to search the Amazon, looking for any remaining military installations. They had found Site 7. More accurately, Site 7 had found them. "What am I looking at?" Sarah asked. "Their armor responds to electrical impulses," Marcus explained. He touched the metal and it rippled like water. "It's not just protection. It's like a second skin. It makes them faster, stronger. But look at this." He pointed to a small device embedded in the armor. "This is the control unit, and I figured out how it works." Sarah felt her heart race. "Can we use it?" "Better," Marcus grinned. "We can make our own. The principles are simple once you understand them. The Krell use biological energy signatures to activate their equipment. But humans produce electrical signals too. Different patterns, sure, but we can adapt. Give me 6 weeks and I'll have prototype armor ready for testing." Sarah grabbed his shoulders and kissed his forehead. "Marcus Webb, you beautiful genius. Get started immediately. We need this." "There's more," Marcus said. "Their weapons work on the same principle. Once we crack the armor, we crack everything. Their rifles, their shields, their ships. It's all connected." The Krell built their technology around their own biology. They never considered that another species might be able to use it. "That's their weakness," Sarah said, understanding blooming in her mind. They've been the dominant species for so long they forgot to design their technology defensively. They never thought someone else would capture it and reverse engineer it. Exactly, Marcus nodded. They're arrogant, and arrogance is a weakness we can exploit. Above ground, the war was changing. The Krell had expected humans to either submit or die. They had not expected guerrilla warfare. They had not expected humans to study their patterns, learn their routines, and strike from shadows. In what remained of New York, a Krell patrol moved through streets that had once bustled with millions. The aliens were tall, nearly 8 feet, with smooth gray skin and large black eyes that saw in spectrums humans couldn't imagine. They wore their armor and carried their weapons and believed themselves invincible. They did not see the humans hiding in the ruins until it was too late. Captain James Rodriguez had been a Marine before the burning. He had served in 3 wars and earned enough medals to cover his chest. None of that mattered now. What mattered was that he knew how to kill, and he knew how to lead people who wanted to kill. He had gathered 30 survivors in the ruins of New York. Most were soldiers. Some were civilians who had learned to fight because the alternative was death or slavery. Wait for it, Rodriguez whispered into his radio. His people were positioned in buildings around the street, hidden in shadows, waiting. Wait for it. The Krell patrol walked forward. There were 6 of them. Enough to control a city block, they thought. Enough to keep the primitive humans in line. Now, Rodriguez said. The bombs went off simultaneously. Not advanced bombs. Not military explosives. Just simple devices made from fertilizer and fuel. The kind of weapons humans had been making for centuries. The kind of weapons the Krell had forgotten humans knew how to build. The explosions tore through the street. The Krell shields protected them from the blast, but the shields hadn't been designed for multiple simultaneous impacts from below. They flickered. They weakened. And in that moment of weakness, Rodriguez's people opened fire. Bullets couldn't penetrate Krell shields at full strength, but weakened shields were different. The Krell had learned this too late. 3 aliens fell in the first volley. The remaining 3 tried to retreat, but Rodriguez's people had blocked their escape route. More gunfire. More bombs. Within 30 seconds, all 6 Krell lay dead in the street. Take their weapons, Rodriguez ordered. Take their armor. Take everything. We have 2 minutes before reinforcements arrive. Move. His team moved like shadows, stripping the dead Krell of anything useful. They had done this 17 times in the past month. Each time they learned something new. Each time they took more weapons. Each time they got better at killing. This was happening across Earth. In London, in Beijing, in Mumbai's ruins, in every city the Krell had burned. Humans were adapting. Humans were learning. Humans were becoming dangerous. The Krell High Command met aboard their flagship the morning of conquest. The ship hung in orbit above Earth, massive and powerful and supposedly unbeatable. Inside its central chamber, 5 Krell commanders discussed the situation. The humans are becoming troublesome, said Commander Thax. His skin carried the darker tone of age, marking him as a veteran of many conquests. We have lost 47 patrols in the past month. 47? Another commander scoffed. Out of thousands? This is nothing. The humans are insects biting at our ankles. Insects that learn from each bite, Thax replied. They study our tactics. They target our weaknesses. They use our own weapons against us. This is not normal behavior for a conquered species. Then we burn more cities, suggested a 3rd commander. We show them the price of resistance. We have already burned their major cities, Thax said. Burning more will only leave us ruling over ashes. The Empire wants this planet for its resources. Dead planets provide nothing. What do you suggest? Asked the High Commander, an ancient Krell whose skin had turned almost black with age. She had overseen 100 conquests. Earth was supposed to be simple. I suggest we acknowledge that humans are different, Thax said. They do not surrender when defeated. They do not accept their place. They fight with a desperation we have not encountered in 10,000 years. 10,000 years, the High Commander repeated. We have not fought a true war in 10,000 years. We have conquered, yes. We have demonstrated our superiority and accepted submission, but we have not fought against a species that refuses to acknowledge our superiority. Perhaps, Thax said carefully, that is the problem. We have forgotten how to fight. We have forgotten how to adapt. We conquered species have spent millennia perfecting the art of submission. Humans have spent millennia perfecting the art of war. The High Commander was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke. Increase patrols, increase security, and find out how the humans are using our technology. They should not be able to operate our weapons. Their biology is wrong. Their energy signatures are wrong. Yet we have reports of humans carrying Krell rifles. How is this possible? We are investigating, Thax said. But he knew the answer. The humans had figured it out. They had taken Krell technology and adapted it. They had done in 3 months what should have taken centuries. Because humans didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for understanding. They just kept trying until something worked. Back at Site 7, Sarah and her team were making breakthrough after breakthrough. They had cracked the Krell shield technology. They had figured out the weapons. And now they were working on the greatest prize of all, the ships. The scout ship's engine is still partially intact, Sarah explained to Admiral Chen during their weekly secured transmission. It uses a form of quantum tunneling we barely understand. But we don't need to understand it completely. We just need to understand it enough. Enough for what? Chen asked from orbit. The ISS had become humanity's command center, the only military installation the Krell couldn't reach. Enough to copy it, Sarah said. Admiral, we can't build a Krell ship. We don't have the materials or the time. But we can modify our ships. We can take the hulls of our old spacecraft and retrofit them with Krell engines. They won't be perfect. They won't be as fast or as powerful as real Krell ships. But they'll be close. And close might be enough. How long? Chen asked. 6 months, Sarah said. Maybe 8. We need materials. We need time. We need the Krell to keep underestimating us. They're learning, Chen warned. They're increasing patrols. They're getting smarter about security. They're starting to understand that we're not going to surrender. Good, Sarah said, and she meant it. Let them learn. Let them adapt. Because every day they spend learning about us is another day we spend learning about them. And we're faster learners. We have to be. It's the only advantage we have. Chen smiled. Sarah reminded him of his daughter. Same determination. Same refusal to accept defeat. His daughter was dead now. Gone when New York burned. But her spirit lived on in people like Sarah. In people who looked at impossible odds and saw only problems to solve. Keep working, Chen said. I'll keep the Krell distracted up here. We're planning something special. What kind of special? Sarah asked. The kind that will make them focus on orbit instead of the surface, Chen said. The kind that will buy you time. Chen cut the transmission. He looked around the ISS at his crew. They were tired. They were scared. But they were ready. Because Chen had a plan. A stupid, dangerous, probably suicidal plan. The kind of plan humans specialized in. Santos, he said. Prepare the shuttle. We're going hunting. Sir? Santos looked confused. Hunting for what? Krell scout ships, Chen said. They send them out alone to scan for resistance activity. Small ships. Maybe 2 or 3 crew. And they fly close to the station sometimes. Too close. I think it's time we reminded them that humans can fight in space too. The crew stared at him. They all knew this was insane. The shuttle was unarmed. They had no weapons that could penetrate Krell shields. They had nothing but determination and anger and a desperate need to hit back. How? Asked the pilot, a woman named Jackson who had been flying spacecraft for 15 years. Chen smiled. The Krell shields are designed to stop energy weapons and high-velocity projectiles. They're not designed to stop a shuttle ramming into them at full speed. We're going to take a page from the Kamikaze pilots. We're going to show the Krell that humans don't need fancy weapons to be dangerous. Sometimes all we need is courage and a willingness to die. Sir, that's suicide, Santos said. Maybe, Chen agreed. But it will work. And it will scare them. The Krell think they understand us. They think we're primitives with simple weapons and simple tactics. We're going to show them something they've forgotten in 10,000 years of easy conquests. We're going to show them that sometimes the most dangerous weapon is a soldier who has nothing left to lose. On Earth, Rodriguez and his people were spreading the word. Every resistance cell, every hidden bunker, every group of survivors. The message was simple. Learn, adapt, survive, take their weapons, study their patterns, find their weaknesses, and hit them where it hurts. The Krell had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest. They had burned humanity's cities and expected submission. Instead, they had awakened something primal, something that had survived ice ages and plagues and world wars, Something that had climbed to the top of Earth's food chain not through strength or speed, but through stubborn, relentless determination to survive. 3 months after the burning, the Krell controlled Earth's surface. But in the darkness below, in the ruins and the bunkers and the hidden labs, humanity was learning to bite back. And when humans learned to hunt, they learned fast. They learned well. And they never ever forgot. The Krell had made their first mistake when they left humans alive. Their second mistake was thinking that 3 months of occupation would be enough to break the human spirit. They didn't understand that humans had spent their entire evolution learning how to overcome stronger, faster, more dangerous predators. The Krell were about to become just another predator that underestimated the hairless apes from Earth. And like every predator before them, they were going to learn that the most dangerous thing in the universe wasn't the creature with the biggest claws or the strongest shields. It was the creature that refused to give up, the creature that learned from every defeat, the creature that turned pain into anger and anger into weapons and weapons into victory. It was humanity, and humanity was done being prey. 6 months after the burning, the war had changed. The Krell no longer walked Earth's streets with arrogant confidence. They moved in large groups, weapons ready, shields at maximum power. They had learned to fear the shadows. They had learned to fear humanity. Admiral Chen stood in the cargo bay of the ISS looking at what his people had built. It wasn't pretty. It was a collection of salvaged parts, human technology welded to Krell components held together by determination and genius engineering. But it worked. The prototype human combat suit looked like something from a nightmare. All sharp angles and exposed wiring and Krell armor plates bolted onto a human-sized frame. "It's beautiful," Chen said. Marcus Webb, who had traveled up from Site 7 to oversee the installation, laughed. "Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, sir. To me it looks like we took a Krell soldier and put it in a blender with a human marine." "Can it fight?" Chen asked. "Lieutenant Jackson is about to show us," Marcus said. Lieutenant Sarah Jackson stepped forward. She had been the ISS pilot. Now she was volunteering to be humanity's first space marine, wearing technology that might kill her even if it worked perfectly. The suit covered her completely, turning her into something that looked more alien than human. Krell armor protected her vital areas. Human flexible joints allowed movement the rigid Krell suits couldn't match, and built into the arms were weapons taken from dead Krell soldiers, modified to accept human neural patterns. "How do you feel?" Chen asked. "Like I'm wearing a tank, sir," Jackson replied. Her voice came through the suit's speakers, slightly distorted but understandable. "It's heavy, but the Krell strength enhancers are working. I can move. I can fight." "Then let's see what you can do," Chen said. They had set up a testing range in one of the ISS modules. Jackson moved through it and Chen watched in amazement. She was fast. Faster than any human had a right to be. The suit amplified her movements, turned her into something between human and Krell. When she fired the arm-mounted weapons, the energy blast punched through the target plates like paper. "My God," Chen whispered. "We can fight them. We can actually fight them." "We have 20 more suits in production," Marcus said. "Site 7 is working around the clock. In a month, we'll have 100. In 3 months, we'll have enough to outfit a full battalion. The Krell aren't the only ones with advanced technology anymore." Chen felt hope surge through him again. Dangerous hope. The kind that made you believe impossible things. But he couldn't help it. For 6 months, humanity had been the underdog, fighting with captured weapons and desperate tactics. Now they were becoming something else. Something that could stand toe-to-toe with the Krell. "We need a target," Chen said. "Something that will make the Krell pay attention. Something that will show them we're not just surviving. We're fighting back." "I have an idea," said a voice from the doorway. Captain James Rodriguez floated into the bay, having just arrived on the latest supply shuttle. His face was scarred from 6 months of ground combat. His eyes were hard. "There's a Krell cruiser in low orbit over North America. The Dawn of Victory, they call it. It coordinates all their ground operations on the continent. If we could take it?" "Take it?" Chen repeated. "As in capture it? Why not?" Rodriguez shrugged. "The Krell think their ships are untouchable. They think humans can't survive in space combat. Let's prove them wrong. Get me aboard that ship with a team of Marines in these new suits, and I'll show you what humans can do when we're angry." Chen considered. It was insane. It was suicide. It was exactly the kind of thing that might work because the Krell would never expect it. "How would you get aboard?" Chen asked. "The same way we took out their scout ship," Rodriguez said. We ram them, not to destroy them, just to breach their hull. Then we board them before they can react. The Krell have never fought inside their own ships. They've never needed to. They don't know how to fight in close quarters, but we do. We've been fighting in close quarters since we lived in caves. This is madness, Marcus said, but he was smiling. They were all smiling, because after 6 months of loss and pain and watching their world burn, they were finally going to do something that would hurt the Krell. Really hurt them. Prepare your team, Chen ordered. You have 48 hours. If we're going to do this, we do it right. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo was having her own breakthrough. Her team had finally cracked the Krell shield frequency. It was elegant, really. The shields used rotating quantum harmonics to disperse energy, different frequencies for different types of attacks. But there was a pattern, and where there was a pattern, there was a weakness. We can't penetrate them directly, Sarah explained to the assembled resistance leaders via encrypted transmission, but we can disrupt them. Send out a counter-frequency pulse and their shields flicker for about 2 seconds. 2 seconds where they're vulnerable. 2 seconds isn't much, said Commander Liu from Beijing. She led the Asian resistance and had been fighting the Krell since day one. It's enough, Sarah replied. 2 seconds to fire. 2 seconds to hit them where it hurts. Coordinate your attacks. Hit them all at once. Make those 2 seconds count. When? Asked Colonel Mbeke from South Africa. His forces controlled most of the African continent's underground resistance network. Tomorrow night, Sarah said. We hit them everywhere. Every city. Every base. Every patrol. We show them that we're not scattered survivors anymore. We're an army. And we're done hiding. The next day, the Krell learned what human coordination looked like. Across Earth, in every occupied zone, resistance fighters struck simultaneously. They used the frequency disruptor Sarah had designed. For 2 seconds, Krell shields failed. For 2 seconds, Krell soldiers were vulnerable, and in those 2 seconds, humans struck with every weapon they had. In London, a Krell command post disappeared in a massive explosion. In Tokyo's ruins, an entire patrol vanished, their bodies found later without their armor or weapons. In Mumbai, resistance fighters overran a supply depot and disappeared with enough Krell equipment to outfit a small army. In Beijing, in São Paulo, in Moscow's ashes, in Sydney, in New York, in Paris, in every corner of the world, humans hit back. The Krell had never experienced anything like it. They had conquered 1,000 worlds. They had faced resistance before, but never like this. Never this coordinated, never this effective, never this angry. Commander Thack stood in the Morning of Conquest's command center watching reports flood in. 42 positions attacked, 37 successfully destroyed, 5,000 Krell casualties in a single night. It was the worst loss the Krell military had suffered in living memory. How is this possible? Demanded the High Commander. They are primitives. They have no space travel. They have no advanced weapons. How are they doing this? They learn, Thack said quietly. We taught them by example and they learned. We showed them our technology and they copied it. We showed them our tactics and they found counters. We treated them like every other conquered species and they showed us they are nothing like every other conquered species. Then we destroy them, the High Commander said. Burn the entire planet. Leave no survivors. And explain to the Empire that we turned a resource-rich world into a dead rock because we could not control a species that had barely reached its own moon, Thax asked. The Empire wants Earth. They want its water, its metals, its biodiversity. They want humans as a slave workforce. We cannot simply destroy it all. Then what do you suggest? I suggest we adapt, Thax said. As they have adapted, we cannot fight them with occupation tactics anymore. We need to change our approach. Increase our forces. Change our patterns. Stop underestimating them. But it was already too late for the dawn of victory. Rodriguez and his team had launched from the ISS in a retrofitted shuttle, accelerating toward the Krell cruiser at maximum speed. They had 12 Marines in combat suits. They had determination. They had anger. And they had nothing to lose. 30 seconds to impact, the pilot announced. Rodriguez checked his team. They were scared. He could see it in their eyes through the helmet displays. But they were ready. They had all lost everything to the Krell. Families, homes, their world. Now they were going to take something back. Remember the plan, Rodriguez said. We breach, we move fast, we secure the command deck. The Krell have never fought borders. They don't know how to handle close combat. We use that. We get in close. We make them afraid. 10 seconds. Rodriguez grabbed onto the safety harness. Around him, his Marines did the same. The shuttle's engines screamed as it accelerated toward the Krell ship. Impact. The shuttle hit the Dawn of Victory's shields and kept going. The shields had been designed to stop energy weapons and missiles. They had not been designed to stop a solid object moving at orbital velocity, with human desperation behind it. The shuttle punched through, crumpled against the Krell hull, and tore a hole in the ship's side. Alarm screamed inside the Dawn of Victory. Krell crew members rushed toward the breach, ready to repel boarders. They had weapons. They had armor. They had the advantage of fighting on their own ship, but they had never fought humans in close quarters. Rodriguez was first through the breach. His combat suit made him fast, made him strong, made him dangerous. The first Krell he encountered died before it could raise its weapon. The second managed to fire, but Rodriguez dodged, his human reflexes enhanced by Krell technology, and drove his armored fist through the alien's chest plate. His Marines poured through behind him. They moved like a pack of wolves, fast and coordinated and lethal. The Krell had size and strength, but the humans had experience with violence. They had spent their entire evolution learning how to kill things bigger and stronger than themselves. They knew where to strike. They knew how to move. They knew how to turn any environment into a battlefield. "Command deck is 3 levels up," Rodriguez shouted. "Move! Move! Move!" They fought through the ship, leaving dead Krell in their wake. The aliens tried to organize a defense, but they were too slow. They had spent 10,000 years as unchallenged conquerors. They had forgotten how to react when someone fought back with equal technology and superior tactics. Rodriguez reached the command deck and blew the door open with a shaped charge. Krell officers turned to face him, their large black eyes wide with something that might have been fear. Rodriguez smiled inside his helmet. Good, let them be afraid. Let them feel what humans had felt when their cities burned. "Surrender," Rodriguez said in the Krell language. They had learned it over the past 6 months from prisoners and databases and recordings. Surrender or die. The Krell commander reached for his weapon. Rodriguez shot him. The other officers froze. "I said surrender," Rodriguez repeated. "I won't ask again." They surrendered. Krell officers, veterans of 100 conquests, warriors of an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years. They surrendered to a dozen humans wearing cobbled-together armor and carrying rage that burned hotter than any plasma weapon. "This is Captain Rodriguez to ISS," Rodriguez said into his comm. "The Dawn of Victory is ours. I repeat, we have captured a Krell cruiser. Please advise on next steps." Admiral Chen's voice came back and it was shaking. "Hold position, Captain. I'm sending pilots up. We're going to fly that ship." Across Earth, humans heard the news and celebrated. For the first time since the burning, they had won a real victory. Not a skirmish, not a guerrilla attack, a real undeniable victory. They had taken a Krell warship. They had beaten the Krell at their own game. The Krell High Command met in emergency session. The Dawn of Victory had been captured. Humans were flying it. Humans were studying it. Humans were learning even more about Krell technology. "This is a disaster," the High Commander said. "This is a warning," Thax replied. "The humans are not just surviving anymore. They are not just resisting. They are becoming an actual threat. They are learning our technology. They are adapting to our tactics. They are doing in 6 months what should take centuries. If we do not change our approach, if we do not take them seriously, they will find a way to win." "That's impossible," another commander scoffed. "We have hundreds of ships. They have 1 captured cruiser. They have determination," Thax said. "They have anger. They have creativity. And they have something we lost thousands of years ago. They have the ability to adapt quickly to new threats. While we debate in committee and follow established procedures, they improvise. They innovate. They refuse to accept that they cannot win." "What are you saying?" the High Commander asked. "I am saying," Thax replied, "that we made a mistake. We burned their cities thinking it would break them. Instead, we gave them motivation. We gave them rage. We gave them a reason to fight with everything they have. And now they are doing exactly that. We awoke the wolves, Commander, and wolves do not surrender. They hunt." On Earth, in orbit, and in the captured Dawn of Victory, humans prepared for the next phase of the war. They had learned to survive. They had learned to fight. They had learned to capture Krell technology and use it against their creators. Now they were going to learn something new. They were going to learn how to take the fight to the Krell. Not just on Earth, not just in Earth's orbit, but in space itself, among the stars, in the Krell's own territory. The prey had learned to bite back. Now it was time to show the Krell what happened when you turned humans into hunters. The wolves had awakened, and they were hungry. 1 year after the burning, the first human fleet left Earth's orbit. It was not a grand fleet. It was not beautiful, but it was deadly. 20 ships, half of them captured Krell vessels. Half of them human spacecraft retrofitted with alien technology. They carried 2,000 soldiers in combat suits. They carried weapons that humanity had not dreamed existed 2 years ago, and they carried rage. Admiral James Chen stood on the bridge of the Dawn of Victory, now renamed the Defiant. Around him, human crew members worked at stations designed for Krell hands, modified for human use. They had learned fast. They had learned well. And now they were ready to show the Krell what humans could do when they stopped defending and started attacking. "All ships report ready," Lieutenant Santos announced. She had become Chen's second-in-command, having survived everything the past year had thrown at them. "We have navigation coordinates for the Krell colony of Scortal. 3 weeks travel at maximum speed. Send them a message," Chen ordered. "Not the Krell at Scortal. The Krell everywhere. I want every Krell ship, every Krell base, every Krell world to hear this." Santos nodded and opened all channels. Chen cleared his throat and spoke. "This is Admiral James Chen of Earth, commanding the first human fleet. For 1 year you have occupied our world. You burned our cities. You killed our families. You thought we would surrender. You thought we would accept our place as your slaves. You were wrong. We are humans. We do not surrender. We do not accept defeat. We learn, we adapt, and we remember. You came to our home and brought war. Now we are bringing war to yours. We are coming for you. Every colony, every base, every world you have stolen. We are coming, and we will show you what happens when you make humans angry. This is our declaration. This is our promise. Earth remembers, and Earth is coming for revenge." The message transmitted across space, bouncing from relay to relay, reaching every corner of the Krell Empire. On the morning of conquest, still orbiting Earth, Commander Thax heard it and closed his eyes. He had tried to warn them. He had tried to make them understand, but the High Command had not listened. They had believed that humans were just another conquered species, that time and occupation would break their spirit. Now it was too late. The wolves were no longer content to defend their den. They were going hunting. The first human fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel. Using Krell engines they barely understood but operated perfectly. They had learned the Krell language, their customs, their tactics. They had studied recordings of Krell conquests, analyzed how the aliens fought, how they thought, and they had found the patterns. Scortal was a mining colony, home to 50,000 Krell and countless slave workers from a dozen conquered species. It was lightly defended. The Krell had never needed strong defenses for their colonies. Who would attack them? They were the conquerors. They were untouchable. The first human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Scortal system. Alarms screamed on the colony. Krell defenders scrambled to their ships. They had 6 patrol craft and a small frigate. Against 20 human ships armed with Krell weapons and human determination, it was not a fair fight. "Open fire," Chen ordered. The human fleet unleashed everything they had. Energy weapons tore through space. Missiles streaked toward their targets. The Krell defenders tried to fight back, but they were overwhelmed. Within 10 minutes, 4 Krell ships were destroyed. The remaining 3 tried to flee. Chen let them go. He wanted survivors. He wanted witnesses. He wanted the Krell to know what was coming. "Send boarding parties to the colony," Chen ordered. "Tell them we're not here to conquer. We're here to liberate." Captain Rodriguez led the first wave down to Scortal's surface. His combat suit made him look like a demon, all sharp edges and alien technology. But when he reached the slave pens, he removed his helmet so the prisoners could see his human face. "We are from Earth," Rodriguez announced to the assembled slaves. They were from a species called the Varen, small furry creatures who had been conquered by the Krell 2 centuries ago. "The Krell attacked our world. They thought they would conquer us. They were wrong. Now we're freeing everyone they've enslaved. You're not prisoners anymore. You're free." The Varen stared at him in disbelief. Free? The concept seemed foreign to them. They had been slaves for so long they had forgotten what freedom meant. "What about the Krell?" one of them asked, voice trembling. "What about the guards? The Krell are leaving, Rodriguez said. We're giving them 1 hour to evacuate. After that, anyone who stays is our enemy. But we're not the Krell. We don't conquer. We don't enslave. We fight those who do. True to his word, Rodriguez gave the Krell civilians 1 hour to flee. Most did. Some stayed, too proud or too stubborn to run from what they saw as primitives. Those who stayed learned that humans might offer mercy, but they would not tolerate threats. The Krell military personnel who refused to leave were given a choice: surrender or fight. Those who chose to fight died. Those who chose to surrender were placed on shuttles and sent back toward Krell space with a message. Tell your commanders, Rodriguez said to the surrendered Krell. Tell them that Earth is coming. Tell them that humans don't forget. Tell them that every world you've conquered, we're going to free. Every species you've enslaved, we're going to liberate. Tell them that the age of Krell domination is over. News of Scortal spread through the Krell Empire like fire. Impossible, many said. Humans were primitives. Humans had barely reached their own moon before the invasion. How could they have built a fleet? How could they have attacked a Krell colony? How could they have won? But the evidence was undeniable. Scortal was free. Its slave population was liberated. Its Krell occupiers were fleeing in terror. And the humans were not stopping. They were moving on to their next target. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo watched the news feeds from liberated colonies and felt tears running down her face. They were doing it. They were actually doing it. Humanity was not just surviving anymore. They were winning. They were becoming the heroes that other enslaved species had prayed for. We need to increase production, Sarah said to her team. The fleet needs more ships, more weapons, more everything. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for everyone the Krell have hurt. Her team nodded. They had been working 18-hour days for months. Now they increased it to 20 hours. Sleep could wait. Rest could wait. There were people across the galaxy who needed saving, and humanity was not going to let them down. The second human fleet launched 3 months later. Then the third, then the fourth. Earth's factories worked around the clock, building ships from captured Krell technology and human innovation. They were not perfect ships. They were not as advanced as true Krell warships, but they worked. And they carried humans who knew how to fight. The Krell Empire began to panic. For 10,000 years they had been the dominant power in this region of space. Now a species they had dismissed as primitive was tearing through their colonies like a knife through paper. World after world fell to the human fleets. Species after species was liberated. The Krell found themselves fighting on dozens of fronts, struggling to contain an enemy that seemed to be everywhere at once. How are they doing this? The High Commander demanded. They are one species. One planet. How can they field so many ships? How can they be in so many places? They are not alone anymore, Thax replied. He had been recalled from Earth to help coordinate the Empire's defense. The species they liberate join them. The Varen are building ships for Earth now. The Torg are providing resources. The Hiven are sharing technology. Humanity is not building an empire. They are building an alliance. Every species that hated us, every world that resented our domination, they are rallying behind Earth. Then we crush them, the High Commander said. We gather our full might and destroy Earth completely. We tried that, Thax said quietly. We burned their cities. It did not break them. It made them stronger. It gave them purpose. If we destroy Earth now, we do not eliminate the threat. We create martyrs. We give every enslaved species in the galaxy a symbol to rally behind. The humans who survive will be scattered, yes, but they will be everywhere, and they will teach everyone else what they have learned. How to resist, how to fight, how to win. Then what do you suggest? The High Commander asked. I suggest we consider negotiation, Thax said. The other commanders stared at him as if he had gone mad. Negotiate? With primitives? With conquered beings? With humans? The humans want their planet back, Thax continued. They want the Krell to leave Earth and never return. They want freedom for the species we have enslaved. They want justice for what we did to their world. These are not unreasonable demands. Unreasonable? The High Commander laughed bitterly. They are demanding that we surrender, that we abandon our empire, that we accept defeat from a species that had no space travel a year ago. Yes, Thax said simply. That is exactly what they are demanding. And if we do not give it to them, they will take it anyway. They have already proven they can beat us in battle. They have already proven they can capture our technology. They have already proven they can turn our conquered species against us. The only question is whether we accept the inevitable now, or whether we wait until they come to our homeworld and make the same demands while standing on our soil." The High Command fell silent. They had never considered this possibility. They had never imagined that a species they had conquered could become a threat. They had never planned for defeat, because defeat had been unthinkable. Now they had no choice but to think about it. Meanwhile, the human fleets continued their campaign. They struck at Krell supply lines. They liberated colony after colony. They showed every enslaved species in the galaxy that the Krell could be beaten, that resistance was possible, that freedom was achievable. And they learned. Every battle taught them something new. Every captured ship gave them more technology. Every liberated species shared their knowledge. Humanity was growing stronger by the day, evolving from a primitive species into a galactic power. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant looking at the star charts. They showed the location of the Krell homeworld, Krell Prime, the heart of the empire that had burned Earth cities and killed billions of humans. "We're going there," Chen said to his assembled officers. "We're going to Krell Prime, not to conquer, not to enslave, but to deliver a message, face to face, from Earth to the Krell High Command." "What message?" Santos asked. Chen smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a man who had lost everything and gained something terrible in the loss. The smile of someone who knew that the universe was not kind, was not fair, was not merciful, but who had learned to survive in it anyway. "The message is simple," Chen said. "They fired the first shot. They burned our cities. They killed our people. They thought they would break us. But they only made us stronger. They taught us how to fight in space. They taught us how to use their technology. They taught us how to be conquerors. And now we're going to show them what humans do with those lessons. We're going to show them that you should never ever make humans angry. Because when humans get angry, we don't just fight back. We win." The first human fleet set course for Krell Prime. Behind them came the second fleet, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. Dozens of ships, thousands of soldiers, and millions of liberated beings who had suffered under Krell rule and now saw humanity as their saviors. The Krell had brought war to Earth. Now Earth was bringing war to them. And the humans were going to teach the Krell the same lesson that every predator on Earth had learned over millions of years of evolution. Never corner a human. Never threaten a human's family. Never destroy a human's home. Because humans were not the strongest species in the universe. They were not the fastest or the toughest. But they were the species that never stopped coming, never stopped learning, and never ever forgave those who hurt their own. The wolves were at the door, and they were done being merciful. The human armada emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Krell Prime system. Admiral James Chen looked at the view screen and saw the Krell homeworld for the first time. It was beautiful. 3 moons orbited a blue-green planet that looked remarkably like Earth. Cities covered the continents gleaming in the sunlight. Orbital platforms ringed the world, ancient and massive. This was the heart of an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years. Chen thought about Tokyo, about Mumbai, about his daughter burning in New York, about his wife's hometown turned to glass, about billions of humans who had died because the Krell thought Earth would be an easy conquest. His hands clenched into fists. "Sir, we're being hailed," Lieutenant Santos reported. "The Krell High Command wants to talk." "Put them on," Chen ordered. The view screen changed. Commander Thax appeared, the same Krell officer who had tried to warn his people about humanity. He looked tired. His gray skin had taken on a darker tone, and his large black eyes seemed to carry the weight of an empire's mistakes. "Admiral Chen," Thax said. His voice was different from the flat tones of the first Krell message. This voice carried emotion. Regret, perhaps, or fear. "I hoped it would not come to this." "You burned our cities," Chen replied. "You killed our people. What did you think would happen?" "I thought you would surrender," Thax admitted, "as every other species has surrendered. I did not understand humans then. I understand now. You do not surrender. You adapt. You fight, you win. You have taught us what we forgot in 10,000 years of easy conquests. You have taught us that we are not invincible." "Is this an apology?" Chen asked. "This is a recognition of reality," Thax said. "You have freed 37 of our colonies. You have destroyed over 200 of our ships. You have turned half the galaxy against us. Species we conquered centuries ago are rising in rebellion, inspired by Earth. Our empire is collapsing, and you have brought your fleet to our homeworld. We know why you are here, do you? Chen asked. You want revenge, Thax said. You want to burn our cities as we burned yours. You want us to feel what you felt. You want justice. Chen was silent for a moment. Around him on the bridge, his crew waited. Behind him in the fleet, thousands of human soldiers waited. And across the galaxy, billions of freed slaves waited to see what humanity would do with its victory. Prepare your orbital bombardment platforms, Chen said finally. Prepare them the same way you prepared them for Earth. I want every city on your planet targeted. I want you to see the weapons charging. I want your people to know that their cities are about to burn. I want them to feel what we felt. Thax's face showed something that might have been acceptance. I understand. We deserve this. We brought this upon ourselves. I will give the order to evacuate, though there is nowhere for our people to go. We will face the consequences of our actions. Good, Chen said. You have 12 hours. The same time you gave us, the transmission ended. Chen turned to his weapons officer. Charge the bombardment systems. Target every major city on Krell Prime. Make sure they can see it from the surface. Make sure they know what's coming. The fleet moved into position. The captured Krell ships, the human-built vessels, the warships crewed by freed slaves. They formed a sphere around Krell Prime. Weapons pointing down at the planet below. Energy signatures built up. The Krell had designed these weapons to destroy cities. Now those same weapons were about to be used against their creators. On Krell Prime, panic spread. The cities began to evacuate, but where could they go? There were billions of Krell on the planet. They could not all flee in 12 hours. Most would stay. Most would die. Just as most humans had died when the Krell burned Earth. Chen watched the clock count down. He thought about his daughter. She had been 22 years old, studying architecture, full of dreams about building beautiful structures that would touch the sky. She had died in an instant, turned to ash by Krell weapons. He thought about his wife, his parents, his friends, all gone. All dead because the Krell thought humanity would be easy to conquer. His finger hovered over the firing control. One press. That was all it would take. One press and the Krell cities would burn. Justice would be served, Earth would be avenged, and humanity would become exactly what the Krell had been. Conquerors, destroyers, the species that burned worlds. Sir, Santos said quietly. 5 minutes. Chen closed his eyes. He saw Tokyo burning. He saw the crater where Mumbai had been. He saw his daughter's face smiling at him in a memory, telling him about her latest project, a building that would capture rainwater and turn it into gardens. She had wanted to make the world more beautiful. She had wanted to build, not destroy, sir, Santos said. 2 minutes. Chen opened his eyes. He looked at the view screen, at Krell Prime turning slowly below them. He thought about the Krell civilians down there. They had not chosen to invade Earth. They had not fired the weapons. They had simply lived their lives, believing in their empire, trusting their leaders, just like humans had lived their lives before the burning. Sir, Santos said. 30 seconds. Chen's finger rested on the firing control. Behind him, Captain Rodriguez stood ready. The crew waited. The fleet waited. The galaxy waited. Everyone wanted to see what humanity would do. Would they show mercy, or would they show justice? Sir, Santos said. 10 seconds. Chen thought about his daughter again. But this time he did not think about her death. He thought about her life, about her dreams, about the building she wanted to create, about the beauty she wanted to bring to the world. If she were here, what would she want him to do? Would she want revenge? Or would she want him to be better than those who killed her? Admiral? Santos asked. It's time. Chen pulled his finger away from the firing control. Stand down, he ordered. Cancel the bombardment. The bridge fell silent. Everyone stared at him. Rodriguez stepped forward. Sir? Rodriguez asked. We came all this way. They burned our cities. They killed our families. We can end this now. We can make them pay, and then what? Chen asked. We burn their cities. We kill their families. We become exactly what they were. And then some other species rises up against us, and the cycle continues forever. Someone has to break it. Someone has to be better than their worst impulses. But sir, justice, Rodriguez began. Justice is not the same as revenge, Chen interrupted. Justice is making things right. Revenge is making ourselves feel better by causing pain. If we burn Krell Prime, we don't get justice. We just get more death. more suffering, more hatred. Is that what Earth died for? Is that what billions of humans died for? So we could become killers? Chen turned to the communications officer. Open a channel to Krell Prime. All frequencies. The officer nodded and Chen began to speak. People of Krell Prime. This is Admiral James Chen of Earth. 1 year ago, your leaders came to my world. They burned our cities. They killed our people. They thought they would conquer us. They were wrong. We fought back. We learned your technology. We freed your slaves. We brought your empire to its knees. And now we stand above your homeworld with the same weapons you used on Earth. We could burn your cities. We could kill your families. We could make you feel what we felt. But we are not going to do that. Do you know why? Because we are not you. We are humans. And humans are better than revenge. We are better than the cycle of violence. We are better than becoming monsters to fight monsters. Chen paused, letting his words sink in. On Krell Prime, billions watched and listened. Your empire is over, Chen continued. The species you enslaved are free. The colonies you conquered are independent. Your military is defeated. But we are not going to destroy you. We are going to give you a choice. The same choice we never got. You can change. You can join the galaxy as equals, not conquerors. You can face justice for your crimes. Real justice, not revenge, trials, tribunals, accountability. You can help rebuild the worlds you damaged. You can make amends for the harm you caused. Or you can refuse and live isolated and alone, remembered forever as the empire that fell because they forgot that power requires responsibility. Chen looked at his crew. They were crying. Santos had tears running down her face. Rodriguez's scarred cheeks were wet. Even the hardest warriors among them were crying. Because they understood. They understood that this was the moment that defined humanity. Not the victory, not the conquest, but the choice to be merciful when they had every right to be cruel. We came here for justice, Chen said. And justice means making things right, not making things worse. Earth remembers what you did to us. We will never forget, but we will not become you. We will not burn your world. We will not kill your innocent. We will be better, because that is what humans do. We rise above. We break cycles. We choose hope over hatred. We choose mercy over revenge. We choose to be the species that the galaxy needs, not the species that the galaxy fears. Chen closed his eyes, feeling the weight of his decision. He had wanted revenge, got how he had wanted it. But his daughter would not have wanted revenge. She would have wanted him to build something better than what had been destroyed. She would have wanted him to prove that humans were more than just another aggressive species fighting for dominance. This is our final message, Chen said. Earth will withdraw from Krell space, but we will watch. We will monitor, and if you threaten any world again, if you enslave any species again, if you bring war and death and destruction again, we will return, and next time we will not be merciful. This is your one chance to change, your one chance to prove that even conquerors can learn. Use it wisely. The transmission ended. Chen opened his eyes and looked at his crew. Take us home, he ordered. Earth needs rebuilding. And we have work to do. The human fleet turned away from Krell Prime. Behind them, the Krell watched in disbelief. Humanity had held a gun to their head. Humanity had every right to pull the trigger. But humanity had chosen not to. They had chosen mercy. On the morning of conquest, which had remained in Earth's orbit throughout the campaign, Commander Thax watched the human fleet depart from Krell Prime. He understood now. He understood why humans were different. Why they were dangerous, why they were remarkable. Humans did not just fight to survive. They fought for principles, for ideals, for the belief that the universe could be better than it was. They were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the most advanced. But they were the species with the courage to be better than their circumstances demanded. The courage to show mercy when revenge would have been easier. The courage to break the cycle of violence even when violence had cost them everything. The Krell Empire began to change. Slowly, reluctantly, but genuinely, they released their remaining slaves. They faced trials for their crimes. They began the long process of making amends, not because they were forced to, but because humanity had shown them a better way. Humanity had proved that power did not have to mean domination. That strength could mean protection. That victory could mean mercy. Earth rebuilt. The cities rose again. The population recovered. And humanity took its place among the stars not as conquerors but as defenders, as liberators, as the species that had been hurt beyond measure and chose healing over hatred. Admiral Chen retired. He built a memorial where Tokyo had stood, a beautiful garden with cherry trees and a reflecting pool. On the wall, he placed the names of everyone who had died in the burning.
Billions of names.
Billions of lives cut short. Billions of dreams ended. But he also placed a plaque. It read, "They fired the first shot and burned our cities. They thought they would break us. They were wrong. We fought back, we won. But the greatest victory was not in conquest. It was in the choice we made at the end. We held the power to destroy them. We held the right to revenge. But we chose mercy instead. We chose to be better. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us worthy of the stars. We remember the fallen. We honor their sacrifice. And we build a future they would be proud of. A future of justice, not revenge. Of peace, not war. Of hope, not hatred." They pulled the trigger first. But we pulled it last. And our last trigger shot was the decision not to fire at all. 50 years later, a young Krell student visited Earth. She stood in the memorial garden, reading the names, trying to comprehend the magnitude of what her people had done. She found Chen there, an old man now, sitting by the reflecting pool. "I am sorry," she said in halting English, "for what my people did, for the pain we caused." Chen looked at her. He saw fear in her eyes. Fear that he would hate her. Fear that humans would always hate the Krell. "I forgive you," Chen said, "not because you deserve forgiveness, but because I choose to forgive. Because holding on to hatred would mean they won. The ones who burned our cities, the ones who thought humans would break. They wanted us to become monsters. Instead, we became better. We became the species that chooses mercy, that chooses hope, that chooses to build instead of destroy." The young Krell student cried, and Chen comforted her. Because that was what humans did. They rose above. They forgave. They built bridges instead of walls. The galaxy remembered that day when the human fleet stood above Krell Prime and chose mercy over revenge. It became a legend. The story of the species that was hurt beyond measure and chose healing. The species that was given every reason to hate and chose love instead. The species that proved that the true measure of strength was not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to create. Humanity had fired the last shot in the war. But instead of a weapon, they had fired a message. A message that echoed across the stars and changed the galaxy forever. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is not to pull the trigger. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is to show mercy. Sometimes the most powerful weapon is forgiveness. The Krell had fired first. They had burned Earth's cities. They had tried to break humanity's spirit. They had failed. Humanity had fired last, and their final shot was the choice not to fire at all. That was what made them human. That was what made them heroes. That was what made them worthy of the stars. The war was over, and humanity had won, not through destruction but through wisdom, not through revenge but through mercy, not through becoming monsters but through remaining human.